The wheel of time as the sacred breath. A lot of what I'm going to show you today you might have seen before, but maybe you'll see it. Nothing I say, it can often require repeating, so it doesn't hurt to see it again, but you'll see it maybe in a different light today. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. The wheel of time, it's an eternal dance. Every end is a new beginning. Our perception of time and space, it seemingly holds us hostage in a container. This one image on the left is Vishnu. It's beautiful. And here we have, there's our Kepler beetle, the seed of consciousness, taking that sine wave, sin wave path, the hero's journey of the serpent. It's the sacred breath of life. Like the Native American medicine wheel, these wheels embody the four directions, the four seasons, as well as Father Sky, Mother Earth, the spirit tree, and all of which symbolize dimensions of awareness, health, and all the fractal cycles and cycles within cycles of life. Here you see some beautiful wheels. They're everywhere all over the world. This is a beautiful image of a Celtic goddess from Owen Spring. And he describes her as of time and fate. She represents not only the phases and movement of the moon, but the revolutions of the heavens itself. It's the wheel of time she's spinning, the wheel of fortune. We create our own mirrors of heaven to mark time and space on earth. And knowing the inherent patterns of nature helps us to navigate these waters of perception. They express their knowing in symbolism. The ancients expressed their knowing in symbolism, mythology, ritual, heraldry, and structure. And here we see the hieroglyphs for the netter Osiris, or Wisir, as his ancient name. Some say Osir. And you see the I is present. He is us on this journey of perception. And he represents, as so many of us have said, mankind, the earth and its axis. And his name translates as the seat of the eye, or the place of the eye. Perception. Here are two glyphs, beautiful glyphs, that represent both linear and multidimensional perceptions of time. Jet, nehe. Left brain focused, right brain focused, perception of time. Jet signifies eternal life and a perception of linear time and indicates a future existence in another realm. Nehe, on the other hand, represents cyclical, multi-dimensional time. Interesting dynamics here. And here's another image of Abdel Hakim Awian. And he always said that nothing is static or linear. Everything breathes in cycles, stages, and ages of constant transformation. Nature loves symmetry and patterns. From pine cones to spiral galaxies, fascinating patterns of the Fibonacci sequence occur naturally in nature. When discerned and understood, they can provide a map for navigating this reality. We are and have always been divine. As the wheel of time spins, it weaves the web of our perception of reality. This is the earth spinning, creating this perception of reality. We've seen this before. It's the potter's wheel. And as this wheel begins to spin, light falls into form in sacred patterns. And the mound emerges in the spitting image of its creator. And here we see Khnum, and he's creating mankind on the potter's wheel, right? Matter from the spinning of the heavens above. Mount Meru, the mound emerges. In Hindu cosmology of the Puranas, with Mount Meru at the top with its 7 levels, and below the earth is supported by 3 elephants and a gigantic tortoise. It's an avatar of the god Vishnu. This in turn rests on a serpent. Here we go again, the serpent of the cyclical nature of the cosmos and consciousness itself. Here's the Dendera zodiac again, and we've seen it several times, but I wanted to show you where we actually see Osiris take his first step, and it's about a 23.5 degree angle. And he's stepping out of Ma'at into the dark night of the soul. This is our journey, the hero's journey. And then embarks on a journey back to his source, back to the primordial, his center. It's a labyrinth. We're all walking that labyrinth of time and space. First breath as Sa, Orion, Osiris, Osar, with seer. You can see a little bit our imagery, and it's beautiful. It's the same as what you see on the first hypostyle hall as you walk into Dendera, these images of Sothis. Jocelyn showed them so beautifully. Sothis, Sopdet, Sirius, Isis, and then Horus sitting on the erect pillar for a moment of silence before Osiris takes that first step out of balance and begins our journey back to center. Hakim said this moment of silence was Un, and it's where we get our word noon. It's one of the 5 stages of consciousness. Heru was the ancient name for Horus. He's our hero. He's the ascended Osiris. This is when mankind comes back to center. That's what he represents. We earn our wings and the double crown. Osiris embarks on this hero's journey, and he takes that first step, creating our perception of time and space, as above, so below. Again, this is Sa, as Jocelyn said. This is serious, and you're looking at constellations moving in the sky, and this is how they determine their mythology, their symbolism, to tell us about our journey. And if you're familiar with Orion, it rises and falls, and it does a full cycle in one great year. Cycles within cycles within cycles, migrating from right brain to left brain and back again. Here we see the precession of the equinoxes again, from Polaris and Vega and back again. And what's the eye in the center? It's our ecliptic pole. What happens when the Jed pillar is raised and we literally, the axis of the earth points to our center? It's the Cat's Eye Nebula. Think of all the symbolism worldwide. This is what our ecliptic pole is. It's a nebula, it's a birthing place. We stop for a moment of silence and we birth a new world into being. And here again, we've seen these images. I put the eye in the center because it's important. The primordial waters of consciousness are flowing from the new pot as the wheel spins, creating new containers of sacred water. We are these containers of conscious liquid light. You see how in these images, it's falling into crater. And the one on the far right, it's falling into all these. We are those containers as the wheel spins. Our ultimate quest is to find our center, our ecliptic pole. And the image on the left, I just love this image as it portrays, look at that center eye with all the little suns around it. It's the light, it's our center, and it's pouring this liquid light into the container shaped like a heart, and it's a container of duality. When we're born into form, we become dual, polarized. It's a journey of perception. I say that a lot. And the heavens are our mirror, and you can see this lifting of the Jed pillar to that perfect place in the sky, the portal between heaven and earth. Each observer can see many cycles and cycles within cycles that can affect our perception of time and space. We have so many ways of looking at the world, from a geocentric or a helio, sun, believing the sun is the center of everything, or the earth is the center of everything. Look at the galaxy. We're seeing so many things spinning in the heaven, and each one of them is an integral part of our journey of perception. Yet you are the center of your own universe. Reality is merely an illusion, albeit a very persistent one, as Albert Einstein would say. Time and space are relative to the observer's now moment. And I just love this image, so I had to share it. Wherever you're standing, that is your now. Everything else is an illusion. So spiraling into and out from the womb of life is marking time and space. It is profoundly significant to be in sync with nature's cycles, above and below. These webs of energy in motion are conscious and interacting with us. Thoth and Sachet mark time and space on palm branches, showing us that nature mirrors the patterns of the wheel. This is Thoth, Jehuti, consciousness itself. He's responsible for the words and scribing our journey, as is Sachet. And Sachet is so much more, as she is the architect of time and space. Sound reflects natural order. Harmonic cycles connect all beings made of light and are inherent in all planetary motion, galaxies, weather patterns, and the movement of our DNA. Mathematics and music together form a universal language echoing the rhythms of life itself. Each heartbeat, each breath, each cosmic movement follows these harmonic principles. We are not separate from the universe. We are part of its grand symphony. This from Zach Ostick. Ninth is this spiraling net as the threads of time creating space. As Dr. Ibrahim Karim said, time is the weaver of everything. This web encompasses universal consciousness. Everything is conscious, within and without. The duality of ninth's web emerges as the wings of Isis and Nebhet, the sisters. These are our magnetic field. We have one that stems from our heart, our largest, there's a magnetic field around each one of our chakras, but also around us, and the biggest one comes from our heart, and it breathes in and out as a sacred breath. And Manly P. Hall tells us that she, Isis, reveals her wisdom only to the tried and initiated few who have earned the right to enter her sacred presence, tear from the veiled figure of nature its shroud of obscurity, and stand face to face with the divine reality. It's the veil of forgetfulness. We are wrapped or contained within our own wings like caterpillars within their cocoons. From Plato, I once heard of one of our sages say that we are now dead and our body is our tomb. And Jocelyn just shared those wonderful pictures of the feminine figures within these coffins. And if you consider that the coffin itself, those feminine figures are the primordial waters, and you are the seed within this coffin, the seed that is going to grow and break open that shell, that egg, that sarcophagus, and emerge to live a new light, coming forth by day, and a new cycle of beingness. We are dead. Until we emerge into a new day. I think you've seen this many times this week, this wonderful scene from the Seti I tomb where we see Tauret holding the mooring post for the bull of heaven, our perception of the spinning circumpolar stars and the wheel of time. I could talk about this for hours, but we'll go on. Horus is said to have thrown this leg of the bull as Set across the heavens. To be imprisoned by the circumpolar spin is the Big Dipper. To prevent Set from harming his father, Osiris, he has now separated them, and Set is imprisoned, spirit imprisoned in the spin of the wheel of time. It's a metaphor for spirit as Set in containment, much like the legendary sword or spirit in the stone. Only Horus, Othor, has the innocence of youth to pull the sword out of the stone, the spirit out of its container. This is one of my favorite images. It's at Edfu. You see these nets everywhere in Egypt, at all the temples. You'll see that it's just everywhere. And when I first got here, I was like, what is this? I know it's important. And You know, I started to figure it out myself, and then I found all this literature, and it's just amazing. This is the veil of forgetfulness, and we are held hostage in its net, the veil of Isis. And you can't really see it, but so hard. This image is huge on the walls of an outer wall of Edfu. And, but there's a mooring post there because the net is tied to the mooring post, the spin, right? That's where the net is created. And it is the flexible matrix of creation, the matrix of space-time wherein we are limited by the physical senses that offer an incomplete experience of our reality. We're held hostage by the belief that we are our bodies when we are so much more. We forget how powerful we really are. I don't know if everyone knows, but we are in a perception of a world that is upside down and backwards. Our eyes are lying to us. You know, I took color. I'm an artist, and I have worked in many different ways with color. And, you know, to find out when I was very young that bananas aren't yellow, they're blue. We see the reflected light off blue bananas to give us the idea that we're eating yellow bananas. Our world is upside down and backwards. Our eyes are lying to us. Our five physical senses may not be telling us the truth of who we are. The truth is in the space in between the forms. Plato's cave is this matrix of waveform. In the night cycle of descending conscious awareness, we perceive reality through these limited senses. In Plato's famous allegory from the Republic, he tells us that we are held like prisoners deep within a cave, seeing only reflections in front of us as shadows dancing on the wall. We're led to believe that we are these shadows and that the limitations of the cave are the boundaries of our world. We're so much more. And then they tell us to beware of traveling the world upside down and backwards. I'm not making this up. This is actually from that tunnel at the Osirian, and it's from the Book of Caverns, Plato's cave. Plato got a lot of his knowledge and wisdom from the priests in ancient Egypt. The world is a cosmic motion picture. This from Paramahansa, yes, Yogananda. I love it. And here's an image everybody's probably seen as almost like a meme on social media, but it so beautifully shows, you know, those images, they're shadows dancing on a wall. They're moving pictures. They're movies that grasp our attention and we begin to believe they're real. But Plato goes on to tell us that even if we were able to escape from our bondage in this darkness, we'd be blinded by the light, the truth, as it would be incomprehensible to us. Maybe we're all powerful light beings who chose to take a spin on the wheel of time, the game board of life. Here we are at the crypt again, and we've seen this image. And the crypts, there were 14 of them representing the stages of the moon. And this is, again, at Dendera, under the floor that we walk in on. And this is telling us, this is the famous light bulb. But what we're really looking at is something so much more profound. You know, and you can say that the formula that we're looking for could be the formula for creating a light bulb. But as I said, there's such a great depth to this. We are born as light waves into this container of an earth-based perception. And you can see we're born as this serpent. This is Wajit. This is your Kundalini. Right? And it's born, it's the life force energy, it's the chi, there's so many names for this, it's the ka. We're actually looking at, you know, these figures represent something more profound. The creation myth of Hermopolis actually states that a lotus flower emerged from the primordial waters of the Sea of Two Knives to give birth to a new cycle of the sun. This is the birth of the cosmos. And what the figure on the far right is an image, he's called Upu, and he's part frog, representing birth, and part baboon. But he's holding the two knives because that first breath has to become dual, separation, duality. And He is sitting on what we call, you know, those boxes, sarcophaguses, they're birthing boxes. The box was known to be birthing box. When you see it in the symbolism in Egypt, the shape of the box is about rebirth. It's a representative earth as a birthing box. We came here to be placed as seeds in the birthing box. And on top of that box is He, and He represents eternity, eternal cycles of the breath of life. And that bulb, believe it or not, is the body of Nut, the heavens, right? You see her arms come down and her feet. Well, what you're looking at is her body bent over to give birth into this container, which is her womb of primordial waters. It's beautiful, isn't it? On the far left, you see the image of the lotus, and it's the symbol that the lotus is emerging from is a pond. It's the sea. It's also called a myrrh. It's love. We emerge from love. And that's Ra-Harakti, the sun, a version of the sun in Horus, emerging from the lotus flower as a new cycle of the sun. This is Wadjet, the rainbow serpent, the chi, the animating life force of the land and our bodies. These are all wonderful images. The image on the far left, I just, caught my eye because he's emerging from the lotus within us. Where does this symbolism come from? When you go to India, you see each one of our chakras are lotuses, right? Chakra, by the way, it's our inner spinning suns. You turn around in the crypt and you look behind you, and here we see the dual opposing wave spin. Now we have Wadjet and Nekbet, the two ladies of Upper and Lower Egypt, the two hemispheres of the brain. It's a journey of perception. And I put the eyes underneath because it is a journey of perception. We are divided now into these day and night cycles. So these are the eyes of Horus, and one eye represented the sun, and one eye represented the night, the moon. And here we see this wonderful image again of Ra on his bark, and he's on this sine wave pattern journey, and he's surrounded by the snake Mehen. The serpent Mehen represents the path of Ra, the sun on the ecliptic, or the breath of the sun expressed in cycles as it travels through the constellations known as the zodiac that extend a few degrees above and below the path of the ecliptic. The peaks and nadirs, the tropics of Cancer and Capricorn, also illustrated by Mehen, represent Earth's northernmost and southernmost circle of latitudes where Ra can be seen directly overhead at the solstices. It's also marking the division between our day and night cycles. Here we see a beautiful up-close image of Wadjet and Nekbet, and you see that they're actually going up papyrus and lotus staffs as the two ladies of Upper and Lower Egypt. Wadjet wears the red hat of Lower Egypt, and her home is Buto. And Nekbet wears the white crown of Upper Egypt, and her home is, her temple that's dedicated to her is in Nekhen. And they represent these two serpents within us. I saw this wonderful tablet, and I thought, 7 eyes. Well, it is called the magic tablet, and it represents the 7 Wadjet eyes, our chakras, levels of conscious awareness and a 3D perception of reality. And here's Mehen. There's our snake again, and representing the intake and outtake of the breath of life. It is the foundational pattern of all that we perceive. Watch it. Wherein every end is a new beginning. That wonderful image at the top comes from the newly cleaned ceiling at Esna, and I saw it, and I saw the scarabs on either side between the wings and was blown away. You know, every end is a new beginning. You get to the end of the road and there's the the Kepler beetle again, and it's telling us it's a brand new cycle. There is never an end. Every end is a new beginning. Now this is really cool. I'll show you the full image in a moment, but this is the Mehen snake game board. And I found this. It's not open to the public, but when you live here as long as I do, you often get to see things that aren't open to the public. And I went down into a tomb at Saqqara, way back beyond the Holy of Holies there, that is also not open to the public. And it wasn't even excavated yet, really. It was, sliding down the sand and, going in. And I saw this image and was blown away, and you'll know in a minute why. But the two hands here are holding lions. These are the game pieces for the Mehen game, the breath of life, the sacred breath of life. Lion pieces. This is huge, considering what we talked about at the Sphinx. Here is the full image from the tomb of Rahepsi at Saqqara. And you can see this game board is shaped in the shape of a water container, right? Because it's showing the ebb and flow of contained watery waveform. Watery waveform as the illusion of physical form. In India, I mentioned this before, this is called Maya. And in Egypt, when you want water, for those of you that haven't been to Egypt before, you can ask the waiter for Maya, and he'll know it's water. Reflections of the wheel of time. It's all a reflection of these wheels of time in nature, within and without. I believe it was Jocelyn that talked about this Kepler beetle that emerges at the birth of form, our three-dimensional journey of perception. And I put the red circle there so that you can see that this Kepler beetle, the seed of consciousness, is the only thing on the ceiling at Dendera that is indented, because he's emerging from the formless to be placed in into the physical matter, the perception of physical matter. So he's about to emerge. He represents Cancer. And, so many of us has talked about what happens about 12,500 years ago, give or take. It's sort of like the last big, huge cataclysmic event, and then we emerge again. And of course, the Dendera zodiac begins in the center in the age of Cancer. So in Egypt, it was also the time that the floodwaters came. So when they did this, it was like cycle upon cycle of speaking of, this ending that was a new beginning. You can also see that the Kepler beetle is shaped like our skull, showing the two hemispheres of the brain. To restore Mat, we must unite the two lands, the two waters, to transmute polarity and achieve harmonic resonance within. I showed these images before, but for those of you that weren't with us, you're looking at, we talk about right brain, left brain consciousness, and right brain is more heart-based, creative, artistic, unity consciousness with a multi-dimensional perception. Where left brain, which is we are more focused today from on a left brain perception, it's mind-based, analytical, separation consciousness, and linear perception. We are in that perception where we believe we are our bodies. But the ancients left us all this symbolism to remind us that we are so much more when we migrate back into right brain consciousness. And I don't think we have to wait for the wheel of time to spin, and I'll keep saying that. But I also want to point out that you see this wonderful image of Wadjet in the center of the two hemispheres of the brain. And when we're able to transmute our polarity, this is when the Kundalini rises and Wadjet comes out of our forehead to say, yes, you've opened your pineal gland. But he's not done yet. Then he retreats all the way down to your root, and then he shoots out of your crown chakra exploding. I like to call them the exploding head chakras. Here you see him coming out. He's the uraeus connecting the two hemispheres of the brain. And you can see Wadjet and Neckbet. I put the little red hat and the white crown on to show you this duality of the movement within us. You know, as we transmute that duality, we raise our conscious awareness. And it symbolizes uniting of the two lands. What were they really talking about in ancient Egypt when they said the king had to unite the two lands? It was not about uniting Upper and Lower Egypt. It was about coming back into balance. And then, you know, I've said it, Jocelyn said it, you go through these rituals and you kind of die. The living king goes through a death. And this is back when they could still do it with right brain consciousness. But the living king goes into the coffin and is fed plant medicine. And he has this out of body experience, right? And he becomes one. If you've ever known anyone that had an out of body experience, they talk about this moment of complete bliss when they feel like they're every cell in the universe. That's gnosis. That's returning to the primordial. But then something says, "Hey, do you want to come back?" And the people I've talked to come back. But what I find fascinating is when they come back, they're totally changed. I think I might have mentioned the one gentleman. He's been on several tours with Susan and I. And he told us his journey, and it was gut-wrenching. He wasn't a sound in the room as he told his story. And he today is just this person that wants to live every moment. And then we met another woman who had this same experience, a very young, beautiful young woman. And today, she never makes plans because she has to stay in the now moment. She's experienced complete bliss. And now she can't leave that moment. So she lives her life in this state of constant joy. It's just beautiful, beautiful. I want some of that. I show these crowns because these are the things we see. You know, when you're on a journey in Egypt, you see the kings wearing the white crown and the red crown, representing this duality. And then when they go through these rituals, they have the right to wear the double crown, and they have earned the right to rule because they have transmuted their polarity and united the two hemispheres of their brain, of consciousness itself. So I've shown Anubis before. We also see Whippawat here, but they're the path openers. They're the gatekeepers. They are, you know, for our journeys from and to our center. They're always there as the gatekeepers, kind of saying, "Are you really ready to go through this door?" It's just so many dynamics at play. And of course, I'm showing you again that on the far left, you see Anubis, you know, and he's riding these two serpents, Wadjet and Neckbet. And here, Whippawat is also riding Wadjet on his journey. And I also circled that the path goes both ways. It's a breath. It's an intake and outtake of breath. So here you see wonderful images. There's Horus. The golden Horus represents this wonderful moment of complete oneness and unity. And then when the king is depicted, this is from the statue, this is from the Egyptian Museum in Cairo, and it's the statue of Khafre. And what does he have behind his head? You know, he is now a Horus king, and he sits in his power on the throne. And here you see on these thrones, they have the Sima Tui, which I showed you in the last lecture. And it's showing that he has united the two lands, transmuting his polarity. The Sima Tui on his throne is the ancient symbol of this great yogic breath. Again, it's the papyrus and the lotus as the lungs that illustrate this duality of breath of the bronchial tree. And they are Wadjet and Neckbet. Kundalini. All of this symbolism throughout Egypt is connected and telling us a divine story about ourselves. Here we see it again, and you can actually see the images of Wadjet and Nekbet again as the serpents within us. And here it's depicting the breath of the Nile. This comes from Tutankhamun's collection, by the way, and it's made of the Egyptian alabaster, or travertine, as Susan informs us. And again, it's the papyrus and lotus, and it's showing the ebb and flow of the waters and ultimate uniting of the two lands. And this is the ebb and flow of the Nile, which flooded annually with the Heliacal rising of Sirius. It's Kundalini rising. And here you see a famous image on the left of Thoth, Jehuti, and he's carrying those two staffs that I hinted at earlier, and do you see that they're crossed? So he's actually has the two, it's the two serpents crossed. He's created the portal. Dual opposing spins united, enabling full conscious expression and knowing. Transmuting duality to unite the two lands enables us to traverse dimensions of time and space. Multidimensional consciousness. And here we see the famous resurrection scene, you know, the raising of the Jed. And the Jed pillar is Osiris. That's the spine of Osiris. It's the axis of the earth. And yes, it's been measured by many people. It's just 23.5 degrees. And you see Isis and Seti I, and together they are raising the Jed. And this is part of his Hebset ritual. But it's also something that they celebrated, the ancients celebrated on an annual basis, showing the cyclical nature of this raising of the Jed. And of course, within the sun, you see the two netters, Wadjet and Nekbet, as the Kundalini risen. So much more I can say. So it is the resurrection, returning to our center, and it opens a space for healing and new beginnings. And from Maura Timms, who wrote studies at EDFU, she says this is the ending of one world age and the beginning of another. And this is one of my favorite images. Again, they're all my favorite images. I confess. This is from the Sokar Chapel at Dendera, and it's called the netting of the Wadjet eye. So here's this net again. Doesn't it look like a windshield, right? Field of vision with the Wadjet eye in the center, our perception. But what's fascinating is it tells the story that we've all been talking about. And I'm going to explain it in a minute, but take a look at that papyrus pillar on the left, and it's 23.5 degrees. And that this scarab is about to, this Kepler beetle is about to push the sun across the Milky Way. And if you remember in my first lecture, I showed you that bar was